Here we go. We're going to go ahead, hey buddy, we're going to go ahead and call the workshop to order this October 15th, 2024, the Effingham Body County Board of Commissioners work session. I see there's no roll call. We just go right into new business. And got a presentation by Pond Company on various county projects. I don't know if there's any introduction from anyone, or we just invite Pond up to the podium.
Yes, so I'm not sure which order, but we've got three, maybe, and maybe even an update on a fourth, but two presentations. One of them is the report on the Southeast Road Network, or also known as the East-West Corridor. And the second is the Blue Jay Corridor report, and then the third is Goshen widening, and they may, if we have time, just kind of bring up where we are on the TMP, but that's not a big deal if you know. But Richard Fangman and I'm sorry, it was Taylor Glover from Pond.
And you can just guide us through which page you want us to be on from page one.
Yeah, sure. You want to do the Southeast Roadway Network first?
Or which you want to do?
Whichever order you want to go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Kind of
what-
Goshen. We'll start with the Goshen and the other one.
Okay. Like Tim said, my name's Taylor Blood with Bonding Company, helping out with some of the project management duties on a couple of projects we're designing here in Effingham County. So I'll get started with Goshen Road widening and corridor improvements. So this is a little bit of update of kind of where we're at, where we've been. Traffic corridor study and concept design was completed back in July of 2023. The recommendations from the traffic corridor study was to provide a two-way center left turn lane as well as right turn lane improvements throughout the corridor. So once we received that approved traffic corridor study and approved concept design, we got our surveyor kicked off. The field survey was completed in June of this year. We had a couple iterations with surveyor, and we officially kicked off preliminary design in July of this year. This is a quick overview of the approved concept layout. You see our project limits start just after Hodgeville Road. I'd point out there are a couple roundabouts designed by others within our project limits. There was a new subdivision at the time, I believe under construction now, if not completed. We have a couple rail crossings throughout the corridor, and the project limits end just short of State Route 21 to try to avoid any kind of GDOT coordination or involvement. So the typical section on the project has been revised slightly since our concept design. Our concept geotechnical recommendation was to provide full depth reclamation in existing pavement and then full depth widening on the widened portions. We reevaluated a little bit within our concept, or with our preliminary design. The geotech provided a slightly revised recommendation of a revised soil cement base, and that'll be one uniform base across the entire cross section. The geotech thought that'd be a lot better design, provide a lot more longevity. We are going to provide an interlayer crack to propose, or interlayer to mitigate reflective cracking that can sometimes occur with soil cement in sandy soils. Some of the benefits of the soil cement are, like I already said, it's a very durable sub-base. It's going to be uniform. Longevity comes to mind. Staging, the amount of time you can get traffic back on the way. It's a lot quicker when compared to full depth design. And then costs associated specifically with traffic control, because you don't have to maintain traffic control near as long. The cost of the overall construction can be reduced. As already mentioned, there are two rail crossings throughout the corridor, so one of the main tasks was to get the railroad, CSX and Norfolk Southern, there's two different rail companies, get them under agreement. So the preliminary railroad agreements were completed in August of this year, and railroad plan review will start immediately after our preliminary design submittal. We want to get the design submitted to the county, make sure there's no revisions needed, give them time for comments, and then immediately turn around and provide it to the railroad for their comment review period. So just updated cost estimates. So our current preliminary cost estimate is approximately $9.83 million. This does exclude right-of-way costs. We plan to, once we get a little bit further in right-of-way design, really lock down right-of-way costs and provide updated cost estimate for right-of-way. Just looking at what's included in the scope of work and kind of timeline associated with them. So, as already stated, our base data coordination survey was completed this year, and then we immediately kicked off preliminary design. That is currently where we're at. We plan to have a preliminary design submitted to the county November 22nd of this year, and then we'll immediately move into the railroad coordination, and that'll go to the remainder of the project. Right-of-way plans, April 1st, 2025, and then final bid plans ready for advertisement August 1st of 2025. So just a quick rundown, kind of where we're at on Goshen Road. Any questions, comments? There is a discussion.
I wasn't aware of the FDR. Is that after you reevaluate, it still needs FDR?
So the full depth estimation, the geotechnical sub did not like how there went with a uniform cross-section. So we're going to a soil cement. It's a very similar process. We're just able to have one uniform cross-section of that soil cement base instead of full depth reclamation with the wide portion.
So you don't have to do FDR with the soil?
No.
Cement. Okay, good.
It's a
Okay.
similar process, but it's not considered FDR. It's a soil cement base.
Will it still be grinding everything up, or will you be able to use any of the existing?
It
load off?
still would have to pulverize the
I
pavement,
see.
and then the new widened portions, they just add cement to
Just
the-
too far gone to do anything?
I believe so. I believe it's just 2 to 3. The amount of truck traffic is, there's a very high truck percentage on the corridor, so I think that's part of the concern too.
So what is the rideability gonna be? I've heard engineers say this, because I got burned pretty bad on a Grayson Road over in Guyton, where our specs, I don't think, had the right rideability, is the term I was told. So this will be a smooth layer on top, correct?
Correct. It'll have your
Okay.
normal asphalt layer, about 1.5 inches.
Because I thought I got burned on Grayson Road, but this here with the amount of traffic, I mean, we'll get eaten alive if it doesn't,
Oh, yeah.
if it doesn't turn out right.
And if I can add on that, on the Grayson Road issue, which used a very similar process that you're talking about, the problem was the cement soil mixtures were somewhat inconsistent and caused certain portions of the road to begin to fail after they put the asphalt on. And so we would then go in and then patch asphalt on a brand-new road, and it looked awful. And so that is a concern, certainly, that I have with that process. And it could just be that the contractor didn't do it right? Or that the scope was not correct. I just don't know. But I think as we move into that, I think that is something we have to make sure that we have down to an absolute science.
And I may not be comparing apples to apples, so, I mean, I'll state that, but I just remember soil to cement, that just kind of threw up a
No, I'm
red-
glad you
red-
did,
red
'cause
flag,
that's,
'cause I remember there was something with the other road, so.
I'm glad you did. That's gonna be, it's always heavily trafficked already. It's just gonna increase, and I certainly don't want those same problems there.
How much geotech did we do on that, dealer? Did we do, because one thing that can help with a situation like that is to make sure you've got enough borings in enough places, that if the soil conditions change, probably what happened was somebody tested it and the place they tested might have been a good design, and then, but
Oh, I
they
see.
might have failed in other areas, so that might be something we can check on, is to go back and see how frequent those borings were, see if we need to make sure we get a little more data to ensure that the design is correct.
And I would like to add, we specify in the plans, the contractor does have to do soil testing and submit their base design, and that has to be approved. So in case soil conditions change for whatever reason, or some of the projects, we do specify the contractor does have to provide updated mix design that meets GDOT specs, is usually how we handle it.
In comparison with both processes, FDR versus this soil mixture, any data as far as one better than the other? Are they more expensive than the other? I mean, what's the reasoning by going down that road versus FDR?
So I think that the main concern from our geotech was that if you look at existing asphalt up there, there's not a ton of pavement in in the cross section. And for FDR to be effective, you have to have a certain amount of aggregate. You really don't want to go too deep into the subgrade without having a good gradation of aggregate. So I think that was a major concern. Soil cement, I think they can bump up the cement levels a little bit, and you can reach that structural number without having to have aggregate.
The base layer is more stable.
Correct.
Do we have all the right-of-way we need for this design?
I believe we'll definitely need some easements. We're still early on in preliminary design. I think we are gonna definitely need some kind of right-of-way acquisition. I think because of the amount of right-of-way that's out there, I think it may be limited to easements. That's what we're gonna aim for, but I think there's definitely easements.
What is, and I don't want to spend any time, on what's taken so long to get this Goshen Road project off the ground? Because we're talking about construction 8/1/25 and the parkway's going to be open. So parkway's open and we're fixing to jam up everything with another road construction on Goshen. I thought we were trying to do this to have that improvements done by the time the parkway's open. And it sounds like we're going to be opening this in June of '26 at the earliest.
So I can't speak to before I was involved in the project, but I guess, what's happened lately, I mean, our surveyors got a little bit behind.
We've been doing this, talking about this for 4 years on this project. And I'm hearing we don't even have the right of way, preliminary design. I'm just a little frustrated because this project is gonna, should have already been done by
Richard, do you have a little bit more?
August of '25.
You know, I don't have the background on what, you know, the years prior, but, you know, I think what was the start date that we had on that subdivision? We're trying to move forward as quick as we can to get through preliminary, so I guess one question would be, not so much that, but just moving forward, what are our next steps and how do we sort of try to align this to move as quickly as?
Tim, do you know when we contracted with them to begin the preliminary planning for this road and design, getting the railroad's approval and all?
Can you go back to your first slide? It has it on it, right?
Yeah, these are our dates, so we started.
No, not that.
I'm sorry?
Not that one.
No, he did it long before that.
Okay, when we started.
Yeah. So corridor study was completed, and I don't think that lasted very long. I'm thinking maybe it was the end of 2022, maybe, when we did contracted out the corridor study. Got that done, and then we moved right into, right when the corridor study ended in '23, we went right into design on this. And I know when this came out, there was some concern that we mentioned about how long the timeline was. But I think we've been trying to work with y'all on trying to figure out how we can truncate that as best we can.
We've expedited as much as we could.
Yeah.
Like I said, we started preliminary design here in July. We plan to have bid plans in August 1st is what we have scheduled. That's for a roadway project of this scale, 3 mile wide and with some additional right of way. That's a fairly aggressive schedule that we.
Yeah, I just know 4 years ago when we started talking about this Goshen Road, and here we are, don't even have the design. But how about the where it ties into the parkway? Do you have that design from DOT?
Yes, I believe that is shown right here on the right side of the page. I believe is that roundabout. We do have that.
Okay, y'all got that, so you can design to make sure we match and everything.
Correct. We'll tie into their project.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding Goshen Road? Right. Richard, you wanna, I can jump in there for further?
Yeah, why don't you jump in, that's our third.
This one should be fairly quick.
Just start off.
Okay, so another project that's currently under concept design is SR 30 Midland Road Roundabout. What are the current conditions? So it is an existing minor road only stop control T intersection. Really just meaning that 030 is your main movement, and the minor movement, Midland Road does have stop sign and stop control. SR 30 is a 2-lane, 2-lane road, 12-foot lanes, rural shoulders, 45-mile-an-hour posted speed design, and it is an oversized truck corridor, so that's something we have to make sure we take into account with our concept layout to make sure that oversized trucks can make the perfect movements. Midland Road is a 2-lane road with 11-foot lanes, roll shoulders, 55-mile-an-hour posted speed design, and the project goals is primarily to reduce congestion primarily along Midland Road, and then improve overall safety of the intersection.
Pretty sure that's 55 along SR 30 versus 45.
Okay, we can verify that.
Yeah.
We can look into that. So kind of where we're at in the project, so the traffic study is underway. This began in September. Our early analysis shows that a single-lane roundabout as a preferred alternative in our ICE evaluation. And that's what this layout is showing. It's very rough. Some of our preliminary efforts, or excuse me, concept efforts. There are going to be some iterations and tweaking, but we just want to give you all an idea of kind of where we're at. Environmental special studies also began in September. Field surveys are to begin late October. GDOT coordination was started in early August, and then we're currently underway putting together the concept report and concept layout for submittal to GDOT. I already mentioned GDOT a couple times. GDOT coordination is required for this one since SR 30 is a state route. We're required to get a GDOT encroachment permit, and because it's considered a large on-scale system project, it has to go through a new encroachment process that's been pushed out by GDOT. That outline is, that process is outlined in chapter 11, the driver encroachment manual. And the main points is that you have to have a limited scope concept report now with GDOT oversight. And then some environmental studies are necessary that usually aren't included on local let projects. That early coordination is underway. Under the slide says that we're in the process of getting PI number and GDOT project manager. Since we put these slides together, that has been obtained. We do have a project identification number, and we have a meeting set up actually tomorrow with the GDOT PM to discuss the project further. This task included the scope of work and dates associated with it. So again, GDOT coordination is going to be a major item for this project to get an approved GDOT encroachment permit. Our concept development is underway. Our draft concept report submittal is scheduled for November 1st to GDOT project manager. Our preliminary design is scheduled for the end of March of 2025. And we hope to have final bid plans in the middle of June of 2025. And I would like to note that these dates are dependent on GDOT review time to try to expedite everything we can to start with early coordination. But unfortunately, we do not have control of the review times of GDOT. That's just, again, a quick update kind of where we're at on the project. Any questions, comments, discussion? All right, well, I'll pass it on to Richard.
Okay. All right, great, thank you, Caleb. Thank you all. So we'll talk a little bit about the Blue Jay Road corridor study and concept design. And we've been looking at the existing conditions. We've done a traffic study, total traffic study overview, and improvement recommendations, and then we'll talk about the schedule and next steps. So we're at that stage where we've done the analysis, and we'll be moving into some more of the design concept work. So you'll see more pretty pictures like Taylor had a little later on, but we'll start with a few that show the corridor, and we'll talk through some of the traffic results so that you can see where we are with that process. So the limits of the garage are from Sand Hill Road to State Route 21, approximately 11 miles. The speed limit varies a good bit. I think it changes, 6 times along the corridor from 35 to 55 miles an hour. So that's one of the things we're looking at as we look at this, is how to make that more uniform along with the design. And then also it's classified by GDOT as a major collector road, and it's the typical section is a 2-lane undivided, and the rural, the mix of urban, there really more suburban with your character of development that's going on. So we looked at through this process about 21 intersections along the corridor that were streets or major driveways to be examined in this process. So look at that along the future Effingham. You can see this graphic, and you'll see a few graphics that look like
Before
this.
you move forward, I wonder if it'd be something worth pursuing for other reasons that I'm thinking in my head now. Changing that from a major collector to seeking it be an arterial road, since it goes from 21 to 17, it connects two state highways. That has implications for, things like service delivery if it was arterial road. I don't know what the qualification, I don't remember the definitions, it's been once I've looked at it, but
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think that this one, along with some others, are being looked at within the transportation plan.
I wish we could address that while we're doing this and get the state to reclassify that. It could have some real major implications with service delivery.
Okay, all right. And, yeah, this also shows where Effingham Parkway comes in next to Hodgeville Road, that'll ultimately connect. Again, these graphics are sort of high-level planning, traffic graphics at this stage. One thing we did, is look at, so what are the existing sort of traffic controls out there? You can see in light blue, there's a, single lane roundabout that's, this plan for, Effingham Parkway, as that comes in, and then, and then further down towards Sand Hill is still a minor stop control, additional roundabout, on US 17 kind of plan. But also a few always stops along the corridor. We've also got the portion that's in the city of Rankin, on the eastern end as well. So we'll look at both of those sections as part of this. Some existing peak hour levels of service. Again, you can see some places where your levels of service, where you're starting to see some congestion shown in red and orange, and some others that are, still a decent level of service overall in this corridor. But we know this is a high growth corridor with a few pinch points. You also have McCall Road that kind of comes in, especially the section coming up from the south, is very close to the railroad tracks, and that causes some operational difficulties.
So speaking of looking at alignments on the road, and speaking specifically for the family, the Durkins that live at the corner of, what is that, 9th Street and McCall? I know they possibly may be affected. Have we gotten far enough down the line where we're actually looking at specific parcels yet, or we're still getting that information together?
I think that's on the next
I think
one,
that's on the next
the
project,
Southeast Road Network.
but yeah, I agree.
But that's not on this.
No, it'll be on the
Okay.
next presentation right after this.
Okay,
I noticed on that,
We'll talk about that on the next one.
okay. That's
on
my
one of
question.
But they're related, 'cause they're the same, sort of the same area.
one of those, the intersections on there will be going away, right? Not Bunyan, the Kessler Road, which is the one we had that portion where we abandoned the portion, or are going to be abandoned.
Yeah.
Can't remember the name of the road.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
I don't have the map pulled up,
Yeah,
but there's a portion that's showing an intersection. I guess
Yeah, I
that will
haven't-
not be an intersection.
yeah. I think I might have referenced that to you. That and Otis Seconder are both disappearing.
Yeah, Otis. That's
Okay. Then that's it. We'll not be in-
Anyway,
And
sorry.
also, we'll talk a little more about the realignment. of-
Herbert Kessler and Otis Seconder will both be disappearing.
So we have some existing level service. We also looked at crashes along the corridor to see where crashes are occurring the most. This is kind of a heat map to show that concentration of crashes. Obviously, we expect to see a lot near 21 just because of the volume of traffic, but you're seeing a lot of crashes also, again, at that McCall near the railroad, that intersection there, a lot considering the volume of them. And the 17 intersection, which I know has been, is being addressed a little bit roundabout as well. But, a little bit what you would expect for the rest of the corridor, some crashes, that are here and there along the corridor, but a little more than you would expect for the volume of traffic.
A lot of those crashes on McCall might have been before we had the three-way stop resolved. When we first built that. remember
Yeah,
there
that's
was
what I
a-
was just.
There
Yeah.
was almost an accident every day before we got that figured out, how to keep that
And we
happening.
had quite a few fatalities in the past, but it doesn't look like, I don't see a lot of fatalities.
Let me see, I'll go to the next. The next page kind of shows, because that may not have been captured in the last few years of data here.
Okay. And this was years back, yeah.
What this is showing those, we've got a lot of, things that are rear end collisions and also not collision with a motor vehicle. A lot of those are run off the road crashes where, because you don't have that safe forgiving roadside in some cases along here.
Yeah.
It could be just a little run off the road. It's, something that has to be a reported accident. You've also got some angle crashes occurring, and so without having those turn lanes, those angle crashes become more prevalent along the corridor. So these are signs of kind of stress on this corridor as a two-lane in its existing sort of format, and things that you maybe expect from this type of corridor to sort of get into this capacity. So we also looked at Blue Jay traffic volume forecasting. So we did a couple things. We applied a background growth rate of about 1% a year through year 24 2049. On top of that, though, we added these other developments that we're known that are occurring here in the near future. And so the background growth rate is a combination of sort of your overall background GDOT count station growth rate in the area, and what's looked at long term on your travel man miles quarter, kind of get an idea of how much growth we could expect year over year into the future. But then again, putting in these very specific developments, because there is a slightly higher growth rate that's occurring right now. So what that did was, so we look 5 years in the future to 2029, which would be when we hope to get this thing, open and going, sort of an opening year type of look, which is showing that more of these intersections with just that bit of growth from all those developments and some moderate background growth rate. Many of those intersections we projected to reach that failure point. And so kind of at that, that's why, so kind of a tipping point, even though now you look at the level of service are pretty good overall, except for a few intersections, that's gonna change a bit with these additional growth. And then again, 2049 is just with the no bill, we just get additional.
It does show that little bit that Commissioner Deloach was mentioning on this one.
So this kind of shows our very, like I said, very basic map. Our maps are not to putting it down to cross sections yet, but this was sort of results of some of the analysis overall as to what we were thinking from our traffic analysis for a number of lanes as well as intersection treatments there. So you can see that from the area where Effingham Parkway would come up, just east of Highsville Road, from there over to McCall Road, the northern leg of McCall Road, that would be recommended to be a 4-lane, widened section to four-lane divided or 5-lane section through. I think we're looking at the 4-lane divided for a few reasons, trying to manage the access points. There's also, you can also see here just showing that little purple line, McCall, that's not shown all true. We'll show you the line for that to be real line to come up away from the railroad tracks and get moving there. So got that. Then there would be a 2-way left turn lane section going from that intersection over to 21 along McCall. Along Landing Road. There's a lot of places there where you've got driveways that are very frequent, and so the lower speed and frequency of drives through there, we think that the two-way left turn lane makes sense. This 4-lane road section is really what's going to help you with the traffic coming up Effingham as it moves and disperses. Some of it going McCall to the north and some of it going further to the east to have that 4-lane section. We did not see that you need a 4-lane section further to the west yet. You've got, with turn lane improvements throughout that section of the corridor, it should function well in the future. We did analysis of all the intersections to look at. We can see where the blues are locations of either multi-lane or single-lane roundabout recommendations through there. We also have a couple that are recommended for some right in, right out, or R-cut, which is basically where we're left in but not left out to the building there. And this kind of shows it in a different sort of format, but you can see where the roundabout locations would be from Sand Hill on the top left to 21 on the lower right as you kind of go through the corridor. So you can see that area from Effingham to McCall is then shown, highlighted as light blue. That would be a multi-lane section. And you can see Blandford Way, you have sort of that R-cut that would allow the lefts in but no lefts out. And then the elementary school driveway being a right in, right out. And that was through some discussions that the county had with the school, where we were looking at a few options there, including a roundabout, other things. They actually preferred having them right in, right out and having the U-turns occur at those adjacent roundabouts. They felt like that would help their operation a little more. Another thing you haven't seen yet, but it'll be in the next stage, we'll be looking at some pedestrian crossings. There may be a need for pedestrian crossings near that school that we could work out there because of the neighborhoods within walking distance to the north or the west of the northwest. So that's kind of a general layout of the lineage. Again, needing that multi-lane section through there and through that part of McCall. And then shown on here, this is sort of our traffic analysis version of the lengths of turn lanes that are needed. Some of them are just needing the minimum amount, either 175 or 235 right, but others needing more, so we had to analyze to try to make sure we got the turn lane that's appropriate for the level of traffic that's being anticipated. We'll carry that more into the design process. So with that in place, your future level of service 2029, you can see that's giving us pretty much level of service C or better on all those intersections. And then even in 2049, you're getting a couple of them will be then going to level service D, but that's considered to be acceptable in an urban area. We have one that's uncivilized that will have a level service E. That's generally acceptable if someone's pulling in from a side street and have to wait a little longer. So overall, we think that's a pretty good level of service to have and expect for this roadway system in future conditions.
Okay, Steve, can you check his mic? I just got a text that nobody can hear, cannot hear the speaker.
Did you tap it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was off.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Gotta do the whole thing again?
We'll go back to the beginning.
Thank you, sir.
We can if you're not, but we'll also, we also have this electronically too. But so the schedule and next steps, again, the traffic study is scheduled to be completed here. It is completed here in September, so we're getting that wrapped up, and getting final comments, on that. And then also the draft report for the geotechnical will be sent out here by the end of October. So what we're finding with that right now is it's looking at, I guess they're recommending full depth, a variety of different improvements on different sections of the road. So we'll have to get that report to understand where, which ones might make the most sense where. They do think that some full depth replacement could work probably on some of those existing 2-lane sections of road. But
So what determines that? Is that your boring samples that helps you decide the application to do that, or?
yes, it's looking at the soil samples and the volume of traffic that's anticipated on the various sections. And then sometimes for consistency, if you're widening the road, you want to have a consistent section, from the new part to the existing part in many cases.
So are we on schedule? I mean, I'm sitting here looking at this, the completion of project, what does that mean? Completion of just getting everything designed and ready to go?
This is a completion of this preliminary phase, so it's just the
And then from
concept
there,
development.
where do we go
So
from
moving from
there?
this into concept development, for taking these pretty drawings into something more of a concept drawing.
So it's similar to Goshen, where we had to actually go in there. We couldn't just repave it. We had to go in there and determine what else was needed with the road. That's what this process is. I think the difference between this is there probably won't be the need for the additional right-of-way, as much additional right-of-way as Goshen needs. This road, with the exception of when you get close to Sand Hill, probably has adequate right-of-way to meet the 100 feet that we need. And so once he wraps up to this, they go immediately into full design. But that, of course, has to be rewarded separately.
And that, so time frame that we would see these improvements is 2 years, 3 years?
I would venture to say, I don't know, Richard, what?
We had shown 2029 as sort of an open to traffic year on this project.
So about
just
5
for the
years.
idea of doing the construction, finishing your design process and going through construction.
But that includes all the roundabouts.
Yeah.
So,
And that's really what we're using as an operational number. There may be a chance to speed that up if you.
yeah, I mean, I'm a little skeptical of that far out just for simply because all of the roundabouts are already funded,
Right.
right? And they're already under design with the exception of Sand Hill. And so I'm a little bit skeptical that it would take that long.
As we look towards this January completion of this phase, let's get with you, Tim, and we'll really put a fine pencil to that to see, with all those things going on, what can we do as and maybe give you all here's what we think the normal baseline schedule would be, and here's what it'd be if we try to do a couple things to try to speed that schedule up, and that way you could see those two numbers, and we can work with you, Tim, on trying to get that together.
There's no railroad crossings on this, are there?
No, and that's the other thing. There's no railroad crossing on this. that we're messing with. I don't think we're touching the Norfolk Southern line.
Right.
If I'm correct, right? We're not doing any sort of recommendations for widening at that section. So I don't really think there
No.
should be any railroad coordination on this. Am I?
So, we talk,
Is that right?
January 25.
Because I thought that was coming by that, between McCall and, you know, the real line McCall.
I'd have to look at it.
Yeah.
Not positive.
January 25, we're gonna have everything we need to begin the full design of this road. January 25, we're gonna have everything we
We
need.
should have everything we need to, yeah, move ahead with the full design of the road,
Full
yes.
design of the road. It seemed like is it gonna take a year to design this road?
I mean, generally, it takes that long to get all the pieces, designed and through the
What
process.
pieces?
We can look
I'm
and
not
see if
following. I
that-
mean, once you got the lay and the layout, and we got most of the right of way, why did they not just design and engineer and survey and move it? And it's just hard to believe it takes more than a year to design a road.
Well, part of it's getting the survey in, getting, you know, there's, you know, we've got to coordinate with with the utilities that you all have there. You make sure we've got all that information in there, so it's, we can look back at our schedule, but, what would you say, Taylor, on a typical, I mean, because it's a pretty long road, that's the other thing with 11 miles.
Yeah, and part of the problem is right-of-way acquisition, so we don't get the right-of-way plans until probably 60 to 80% plans is when we deliver right-of-way plans. And then we have someone else go out and acquire right-of-way. So if it's a, how long is widening, Richard?
It's 11 miles.
11 miles, and
Yeah,
we're
so-
talking hundreds of parcels. If you're touching, I mean, it's a long process because of right-of-way.
Yeah, but I'm
It's
thinking
not,
we're not widening the road.
It's not, the portions that need the right-of-way are the portions in Rincon, which is not part of the project,
Yeah.
right? And that portion by Sandhill, from my understanding, from the preliminary kind of right-of-way analysis we did prior to deciding to do the corridor plan, and that is maybe 2 or 3 property owners between the roundabout at 17 and Sandhill. So right away, I don't imagine is going to take an enormous amount on this, but, you know, I may be wrong. We only did a preliminary analysis of it.
But even right-of-way comes after you get your design, when you know what you have to.
That's right.
get right. So just to get the road designed, then you've got the right-of-way acquisitions, if you need some. That takes a little.
Right, right. Yeah,
But
that's
the
to get the
design-
preliminary design done, and then usually do right away as you're doing the final, you know, as you're doing the
Yeah.
final design, which is, but the bulk of the design.
I just
uh,
hear
No,
20
well-
29
About a year
and
or
I
so.
shudder.
Yeah, I mean, generally, we have to wait till we get the final plats and design before we can begin even the process of acquiring right-of-way, but
But design doesn't involve that. It just involves the design. Then you see what plats you're involved
That's right.
with, and that's another 6 months maybe. But I mean, 29 just makes me shudder. That's 5 years. It seems like design ought to be about a year. Then you get the right of ways, and then I don't know why.
I
this
think we
is-
had on the schedule, the next step, the preliminary design was about a year with the right, and there may be some ways we could speed up when we go to the right of way. But we
You
do
just
want to have
said
the, you
something,
do
you
want to
said-
have the preliminary design done really before you start doing anything, you know, on the right of way, so,
Oh, no, I thought you'd have the design done before you started doing the right of way.
yeah. We usually have what they call is preliminary design, so
It's
it's
probably
preliminary
80%.
design, then you do the right of way, and then you go to the
It's
final
probably
design.
80%
But final
complete.
design isn't really, isn't as preliminary as you think, it's really the design that we all want to build.
Okay, so
Final
you just work-
design is addressing any final comments that come after, and at the time of preliminary, the goal with that is to lock down all the right-of-way parcels and have all that. So it's really just the fleshing out of any final details.
And I'm probably being very negative. I'm just feeling like somewhere we're losing connection, the urgency of these transportation projects.
Okay,
The T-Splosh has been approved. Funding has never been an issue. The
Okay.
issue is getting it designed and done.
done, okay.
And,
Well, we'll get back with our team and with Tim, and we'll see what we can do to expedite that and have some
Okay.
answers that are a little more thorough
Okay,
on
28.
what it all,
Love to see
what all
the-
those, we don't have a schedule like, you know, with the other one where I can show you how all the pieces, you know, fit into play. We'll
yeah, I
get
just
that
don't
for
see
you.
why it can't be done in 3 years.
I think we're gonna see the dynamic of traffic change quite a bit on Blue Jay in the next 2 to 3 years
Yeah,
with all the new jobs and everything. So this is gonna
there's a
be,
lot going on.
it's gonna be
yes.
crucial for Blue Jay
Okay,
to connect. And we need those improvements.
All right, let's see what we can do to, see what we can do. We'll circle back with you on that detailed schedule with all the things, so we can talk about all those elements.
I think that's one thing we need in all these projects that we've been missing is goal setting. Where do we want to be so we can see if we're getting there? Even in the strategizing of the review of the plan, we didn't have a goal where we wanted to be that I knew about. Or didn't understand. So we can measure, are we moving this down the road to get these projects done? So I think that if you could do that for us next
Yeah,
time.
let
we
us,
get together.
let us really look at that closely, and, you know, I don't want to tell you offhand, we can shorten it by this or that without us really looking at that schedule, but we will certainly do that. And, yeah, I think 2029's, you know, that also assumes a pretty long construction period too, which you guys are pretty good at getting it done quickly, so, you know, we'll work with Tim and see if we can.
Tim, we might need to look at making this 2 projects, you know, where you design and you get from Midland or whatever, or Parkway, so it gets access to the Parkway. I don't know, it might be in 2 contracts.
Okay.
So there's, I mean,
Could be, yeah, you could do the 4-lane
makes it
section and then do the
more
improved 2-lane
rapid to
section.
get some
Maybe
development going
17
versus,
to Parkway or Midland or something.
Okay.
you get
Give
the
us some
design done to a
connectivity.
certain point, say 5 miles,
Mm-hmm.
and you start moving forward on that, so you don't have to wait another 6 months to the other design before you even start
Yeah.
looking at right-of-way acquisitions on this part, or
Okay.
bidding it. It might be good, that might expedite it.
That's
That-
true.
that would
Let's-
be
We should look at this
worthwhile.
middle section, I'm sorry. So-
Yeah.
That'd be worthwhile to check into to see, you know, what does it look like for the future? I mean, is it gonna be heaviest between 17 and Midland, or 17 and the Parkway, or, you know, where these patterns are gonna change? They're gonna change in a big way.
Yeah.
We've got Hyundai on one end, we've got Seiwan on another end, 600 jobs just at Seiwan. You know, all this, we have a lot of traffic obviously going back and forth to Savannah, but I think this is gonna be a big player in the future.
I think Effingham Park, if I was to say right now where I think the priority ought to be, would be Effingham Parkway to
It is.
McCall.
Yeah.
Because that's the section that needs to be
Yep.
widened, and that's the section where the school is, and that's the section that's
Right.
gonna pick up that traffic when Effingham Parkway comes in.
That's a good
The
point,
other-
that's
so-
where we need
so
to be
that's
looking
where-
ahead.
So let us
Let's
look and
suggest
see.
that.
Yeah,
Around
give
the
you some-
Parkway, pick up 4-mile stretch, and let's get it done.
Yeah. Okay, no, that's great. And, you know, as we go towards completing this first phase in January, this is just the kind of feedback we need to do, and we'll make sure that all this is part of what we're putting together as a package
Sure.
for you on reporting back.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. If I can find the.
You're gonna
Oh, is it not
cover the
showing
one that
anymore?
Jamie asked about, the corridor.
There we go, okay. So this is the Southeast Effingham Road Network improvements. So this is looking at network improvements in, you know, the area just north of the Blue Jay corridor, but also how we connect over from McCall Road to 21 in conjunction with some developments that are occurring, you know, in the county and in the city of Rincon. So we'll do a quick study overview, improvement recommendations, and then talk about some of the conceptual layouts and costs that were developed in this. So I guess some of the goals of this study was working with Rincon and the Georgia International Rail Park developer to provide a connection between 21 and McCall Road. And so why are we working with a specific developer on this? Well, part of it's because it's going to go through the property of that developer, and they're willing to work with the county to make sure that connection is made, you know, for that. So we're also a goal is to provide a railroad grade separation, so there's another way to get across that railroad without having to be caught by it. And realigning, we also looked at realigning McCall Road away from the railroad and improving related intersections. Yeah, looking traffic flow now in the future, connection, locations and alignments, and intersection operations. And so, so we did that. We looked at the traffic flow. We looked at what was generated by these new developments, traffic flowing, you know, through there. And these were sort of the recommendations that had come out of the study was development of this east-western road. You can see that labeled New East-West Road. And then we wanted to grade separate from the railroad tracks and bring that in. So we looked at bringing that in kind of across from this Effingham Power driveway, you know, and that gives you some flexibility in the future if ever you wanted to do some other connection through there or connect up a different way. But also that was as, you know, that was actually very tight as to where that bridge could go. The further, you can see that it's not at a 90 degrees from the railroad tracks, it's slightly skewed. And we did that because we need to have enough room to be able to come back down before we get to McCall Road. So we have to have enough rise to be able to get up over the railroad track and then come back down. And you can see the rail, just above where it says proposed bridge, there's that gray area. That's the rail layout, the rail yard that they want to have for this industrial park. And so we're trying to avoid that rail yard and also come back down, in a way that we can bridge over the railroad track. So that's that east-west road. It would have a connection up to the GURP Road and to the new development to the north there as well. It also would have, we looked at improvements then to Blue Jay, including widening of McCall Road from there up to the new east-west road. And then in the future, a widening from McCall Road further up to Ron Station Road. And this also included looking at Ron Station Road and Little McCall. They're offset now, and so bringing them into one intersection with a roundabout there. Ron Station Road, also in our transportation master plan, we're looking at maybe doing some improvements to that in the future to bring that more up to grade for truck route, because it does connect over to a state route on the other side of State Route 21. So being able to have that connected road, from the eastern end of Rankin and 275 over across Ron Station and down. So we're looking at that as sort of a pathway that comes down. Also the ability for trucks that are coming, or cars, whichever, coming down 21 to be able to take this new east-west road over, have a grade separation, and then connect into the Blue Jay Road and ultimately Effingham Parkway. Also McCall Road to the south, we showed that being realigned and coming up there as well. We looked at all additional connections from that road, that up to the east-west road, but we did not include that. It goes through a wet area. That's something that could be added to connect that back up through, but also that draws a little more traffic along McCall Road to the south, and we're trying to not necessarily do that because we have the school there with where your other roundabout is, and so we're trying not to necessarily draw that as a major truck through route. So this provides that way for trucks and other vehicles to get around, somewhat around downtown Rankin, but also to access the Effingham Parkway.
So I'll go ahead and ask you the questions I'm going to be asked.
Yeah.
The last time one of the news stations, we were in a workshop like this, they got a hold of a map similar like this, and I understand it right now, everything is conceptual.
Yes.
Nothing is drilled down on specific details.
Absolutely, yes.
But like in the bottom right there, the red line connecting Blandford Road and McCall Road, that goes right between the Durkins property.
Okay.
So if this map here comes out on the news tomorrow, what do I tell those folks? I've told them there is no actual design yet where those connectors are going. At what point do the citizens, and I know there's going to be another situation above that where the railroad track, we're crossing that. At what point do those residents become involved? Do we have public stakeholder meetings? What's our process there? When do they come and provide input?
I would think at this stage, this is sort of an initial study for your information and for the county staff's information. So at the time that you want to sort of incorporate that into a plan, like if we were to adopt this into the transportation master plan, it might make sense to have a meeting to make sure that the folks know that this is going to be part of that plan.
And if I can
That's
add
a time.
Yeah, so when are we going to decide the specific location of these roads?
And I don't know whether it's in latter part of this presentation or not, but I don't know if we're going to have time to get into it. But there was a recommendation of the phases for this. And when we eliminated that connection from Blandford to the east-west corridor, we really made that section, that little connector road from McCall to Blandford, that moved that to the last phase. And the reason we did that, and you kind of see it here, it's in your 3 phases and it's in phase 3. The reason we did that is we wanted to see, once the east-west corridor gets opened, what sort of effect that it would have on that intersection of McCall and Blandford as it is right now. If it continues to get worse, right, then, then it could be a case that we see the need to actually pursue the realignment. But the one thing that this allows us to do, and Effingham Parkway allows us to do, is basically remove all truck traffic from east of the McCall Blue Jay intersection. So anything from that, where we have a roundabout where the three-way stop is, to Rincon, and McCall all the way to Blandford Elementary. There would be no need for trucks to be on that, so we would make that a non-truck route. They would have no basis to going on it, whereas now it's the quickest route to a truck route. But once that crossover opens up, it's no longer the quickest route to the truck route. Once Effingham Parkway opens up, it's no longer, and so that may
So there may not
relieve
be a
some-
need for that piece?
What's
is what
that?
you're- So there may not be a
There
need?
may not be a need, and it is kind of a wait-and-see thing, which is why it was moved to the last phase.
Okay.
Now, as far as a safety issue, or if rush hour traffic continues to back up on McCall at that intersection, we may have to address it, but there's going to be some changing traffic patterns on this as a result of Effingham Parkway and the east-west corridor and the elevated rail crossing. So it really becomes a wait and see.
Well, and the reason why I just kind of drill down on that is I, committed to communication. Once it was time to bring them into process, they would be aware, and we would have communication.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, and so I wanted to bring this up to you, and I had mentioned that to Mr. Durkin as well. And I wanted to bring this up to you because this is different from what was originally in the newspaper and the news and so on and so forth. There are some huge sections of this project which are no longer deemed viable and were removed that would have affected his property. And so I think this does change things a little bit, and so we can reach out to him on this.
And I'd almost suggest that be removed and not even be a phase 3. And I'll tell you why, because we got a long ways to get this other part. Then we got to see what the traffic patterns are. I mean, you're really talking 7, 8 years out now that we'll know. You know what I'm saying? That part.
Right.
And so why create heartache until we get within 2 or 3 years and say, you know what, this didn't really relieve it. We need that. Because I'm with you. I can see the gateway, people coming Goshen other ways than this road up to that crazy stop sign. Trucks not going north. They're going to want to go to Gateway, to the Parkway. Fastest, like you said, that's the fastest way.
It's just gonna be a challenge for the school buses, but it always has been.
And that's
But it
the
always-
problem.
yeah.
It's still a safety issue.
Yeah, that's
particularly-
the
we
pro-
don't know what's
was
going
my
to happen
point.
with
About
the school
school
going in
buses.
there.
Yeah.
But they've always dealt with it.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
I-
it's
Traffic
not,
should be
never
a
been an
lot
ideal.
less there.
It should be, but there's still a safety issue there. It's hard to make that left, and it's dangerous, and people, it's probably why you saw a lot of crash data there earlier.
Yeah, but a
because of
lot of
that.
that
It's a-
traffic should go away, is what I'm getting at.
It will, but the car traffic will still be there. I think eliminating the truck traffic
Car
is the key.
traffic should go away, except for the school. I see
Right.
that now that you mentioned that.
You got school, and both schools, or,
And part of the
it's gonna be
reason
the
you leave
connector.
it in there is if it becomes a safety issue, and it becomes a huge congestion point in the future. I mean, some of these changes, you just never know how folks are gonna react. May make the situation worse, right? The new elementary school there, may somehow increase traffic at that intersection that we're not thinking about. Right, so it's always good to have in the plan, because if something comes up and then we need funding, the first thing they're gonna ask is it in your master plan? Because we can get it on the list for funding for kind of
Okay.
Good point.
immediate addressing if the problem deems necessary. But again, right now, with so many changes going on in that general area, I think we need to take a wait-and-see approach on it.
Yeah,
Basically, it's prudent to have
Yeah.
a solution in there, whether it's the final solution or not.
Is that second box there, and you probably answer, is that where Mr. Durkin lives right there?
Yes.
And I wonder what's the possibility going up past that to this to the old house and doing something there.
That's all family property in there.
I know it, but it wouldn't cut
Yeah.
his property in
Yeah,
half.
yeah.
It wouldn't,
Well, and again, I'm not, not saying that something does or does not need to be there. I just committed to communication, and that's what they asked for. They just wanted to be involved through the process, and I just want to
Probably
make
good
sure
to-
we do that.
Sit down with him and talk to him and see what, he might have a great suggestion that would be viable for us to use and increase the safety there. So it would,
yeah.
less impact the
I
better.
would look
to
at
the
something
property.
from beyond his house to the corner there to see if there was something you could do to bring it back beyond the river. Is there enough? Is there a quarter mile there or eighth of a mile that gives you enough to bring it back where the turn, a little small roundabout, something could be done? There may be some other options. I know this was the right option when we were looking at making that the east-west corridor for trucking. But that's my concern, that it might should just go away and look at something else. But I got it. We'll leave it there for now. It keeps it before us in the master plan. You know, we got to address the safety issues. So I'm on board.
And when we laid that out, we tried to avoid all the small parcels and kind of go, but maybe we made it worse for that owner by going through the middle of his big parcel. So those are things that do have to be worked out as you
Yeah.
move forward.
Okay.
Okay.
We're
So
pushing
again,
the-
this is kind of the phasing, of these, and,
All right, we're pushing the time for our regular board meeting. Do we need
Okay.
to?
I need 5 minutes, I need to go to the bathroom.
Yeah,
I think that's all we have.
All right. Thank you so much. Good report. Appreciate it.
Okay,
And,
thank you.
We look
Thank
forward to hearing back from you in a couple of weeks on how we're going to speed everything up. Are we going to take a 5-minute recess and let's use the restroom so we don't, then we'll come right back.